The Forbidden Experiment. The massive Arcanian vessel Destiny's Reach emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the Sol system, its sleek, crystalline hull reflecting the distant sun's light like a fractured diamond. On the command deck, First Commander Fella stared at the small blue-green planet displayed on the main view screen with barely contained excitement. "Deceleration complete, Commander," reported Navigation Officer Kryn. "We've arrived at the target system, maintaining position outside their detection range." Fella nodded, her iridescent scales shifting from deep blue to green with anticipation. "Excellent. Engage full stealth protocols and notify Chief Scientist Vexlor that we've reached his precious discovery." The Arcanians had spent centuries expanding their influence across 3 galactic sectors. Their technological superiority and natural intellect had allowed them to subjugate or assimilate 12 sentient species, each one providing new knowledge, resources, and genetic material to strengthen the collective. But their expansion had slowed in recent decades. No new worthy civilizations had been discovered, and the Arcanian Council was growing impatient, until Vexlor's unauthorized deep space probe detected Earth. The laboratory section of the Destiny's Reach was a stark contrast to the elegant command deck. Clinical white surfaces housed complex equipment designed for biological research and experimentation. Vexlor, distinguished by his elongated cranial ridge marking him as part of the scientific caste, studied the stream of data with fascination. "Remarkable," he whispered, his slender fingers manipulating the holographic display showing human genetic sequences. "Simply remarkable." His assistant, Mira, approached cautiously. "The commander wishes to know your preliminary assessment." Vexlor didn't look up. "Tell Fella that my initial findings were correct. These humans are unlike anything we've encountered before. Are they truly worth the risk? This system lies on the border of the interdiction zone." Vexlor's eyes narrowed. "The interdiction zone is based on superstition and fear, Mira. There's no scientific evidence supporting the existence of these so-called guardians. The Trilaxian Empire disappeared after they breached the zone," Mira reminded him. "An entire civilization, gone. Coincidence, or perhaps they encountered a natural phenomenon they weren't prepared for." Vexlor gestured to the genetic model. "Look at this. Human DNA contains sequences we've never seen before. Their cognitive architecture suggests potential abilities that even we don't possess." "What kind of abilities?" "Adaptability beyond anything logical. These humans have survived multiple extinction-level events through sheer determination. Their primitive technology advanced from basic flight to rudimentary space travel in less than a century." Vexlor's voice grew excited. "And their brains, they use methods of problem-solving that defy our understanding. If we could harness this." Mira shifted uncomfortably. "The Council authorized observation only." Vexlor's scales flashed a dangerous red. "The Council lacks vision. Observation isn't enough. We need specimens, living subjects for proper study." "But..." "Enough, Mira. Prepare the capture drones. We'll select subjects from isolated areas first. Places where disappearances won't immediately raise alarms." Despite her misgivings, Mira complied. Within hours, the capture operation was underway. Dr. Elena Vasquez hiked up the mountain trail, relishing the solitude. Her research station in the Andes Mountains was remote by design, perfect for her climate studies and perfect for someone who preferred the company of data and mountains to people. When she spotted the unusual atmospheric disturbance above her, scientific curiosity overcame caution. She adjusted her equipment to scan the phenomenon, not realizing she was being watched. The paralysis field hit her without warning. As consciousness faded, her last thought was of the strange metallic object descending from the clouds. She wasn't the only one. In the Siberian wilderness, Ranger Pavel Sokolov disappeared while investigating unusual wildlife behavior. In the Australian outback, Aboriginal guide Jamal Cooper vanished during a solo trek. On a research vessel in the North Atlantic, marine biologist Dr. Kimiko Tanaka simply ceased to exist between one deck and another. One by one, 12 humans from different regions, backgrounds, and expertise were taken, all from isolated locations, all seemingly perfect subjects for study. On the Destiny's Reach, Vexilor could barely contain his excitement as the stasis chambers filled with his human specimens. "Begin full biometric scans," he ordered his team. "I want complete neural mapping, genetic sequencing, and stress response testing." First Commander Fella observed from the doorway, her posture rigid with disapproval. "The Council will not be pleased with this unauthorized expansion of our mission." "The Council will reward results," Vexilor countered. "Once they see what I've discovered about these humans." The ship's alarm suddenly blared, cutting him off. Fella's communication device activated automatically. "Commander," the panicked voice of the tactical officer echoed. "Unknown vessel has appeared. Massive energy signature." It came out of nowhere. "Impossible," Fella snapped, already moving toward the command deck. "Nothing could breach our sensor perimeter." Vexilor followed, suddenly uneasy. When they reached the command deck, the view screen showed something that defied explanation. A massive vessel unlike any they'd encountered before. It appeared to be composed of shifting darkness, its edges blurring, as if it existed partially in another dimension. It dwarfed their ship by at least a factor of 20. "Hail them," Fella ordered, maintaining her composure despite the impossible situation. Before the communications officer could comply, every screen on the command deck activated simultaneously. A figure appeared, humanoid but clearly not human. Its form seemed composed of fractal patterns that constantly shifted and realigned, with multiple limbs that appeared and disappeared as if the being couldn't decide on a single form. "Arcanian vessel," the entity spoke, its voice bypassing their audio systems and manifesting directly in their minds. "You have violated the interdiction protocol." Fella stepped forward. "Identify yourself. By what authority do you intercept an Arcanian collective research vessel?" "We are the Guardians. This system and its dominant species are under our protection. Your actions constitute a Class 1 violation of the interdiction protocol." "We recognize no such protocol," Fella replied, though her scales had paled significantly. "The Arcanian Collective claims the right of scientific inquiry throughout the galaxy." The Guardian's form shifted again, becoming more solid, more threatening. "Your recognition is irrelevant. Your ignorance was accounted for, which is why we now issue formal notice. Earth and its human inhabitants are designated Protected Species Alpha. All specimens must be returned immediately. All gathered data must be purged." Vexilor pushed forward. "By what right do you claim authority over these humans? They're primitive beings, barely space-capable. The knowledge we could gain." "Your assessment is dangerously incomplete," the Guardian interrupted. "Humans are not what they appear to be. They are not protected because they are weak. They are protected because of what they will become." The screen shifted, showing a rapid succession of human achievements. Art, music, acts of sacrifice, moments of brilliance and innovation that had occurred throughout human history. Then the images change, showing projections of future human development that seemed impossible, technologies beyond even Arcanian understanding, feats of engineering that defied known physics, expressions of creativity that struck the observers with profound emotion. "You cannot comprehend their potential," the Guardian continued. "We have watched them for 200 millennia. They possess a unique cognitive architecture that allows for evolutionary paths closed to other sentient species." First Commander Fella had recovered her composure. "If they are so precious to you, why not guide their development? Why leave them to evolve in isolation?" "Because interference would alter the very qualities that make them unique. Their potential emerges precisely because they must forge their own path." Vexilor scoffed. "This is absurd. They're just another sentient species. Violent, primitive, divided." "Your understanding is limited by your perspective," the Guardian replied. "Return the humans. Withdraw from this system. This is your only warning." The screen went dark. In the silence that followed, the command crew looked to Thela for direction. Her scales shifted through colors as she considered their options. First Commander, the tactical officer finally spoke. Their ship's energy signature exceeds anything in our database by several orders of magnitude. We cannot prevail in direct confrontation. Thela turned to Vexilor. Your assessment. The scientist's earlier confidence had diminished, but scientific curiosity still burned within him. These Guardians clearly possess advanced technology, but their claims about human potential seem exaggerated. The specimens we've collected represent an unprecedented opportunity. An opportunity that comes with significant risk, Thela noted. Vexilor's scales flushed with intensity. All great discoveries involve risk, Commander. We've barely begun our analysis. Just give me 48 hours with the specimens before we decide. Thela considered for a long moment before nodding. 48 hours, but increase security around the human specimens and prepare emergency evacuation protocols. If these Guardians are as powerful as they appear, we may need to depart with haste. As the command crew dispersed to carry out her orders, Thela gazed at the view screen where the Guardian ship still loomed. For the first time in her distinguished career, she felt a sensation alien to her species' confident nature, doubt. In the laboratory section, Vexilor returned to his specimens with renewed determination. If humans truly possessed the potential the Guardian claimed, he needed to discover it, quickly. In their stasis chambers, the 12 humans remained suspended between consciousness and oblivion. Unaware they had become the focal point of an interstellar confrontation, or that their inherent nature represented something so valuable that ancient powers would rise to protect them. Elena Vasquez's eyes fluttered beneath closed lids as if dreaming. In her unconscious state, something was happening. Neural pathways reconfiguring, dormant genetic sequences activating in response to the alien environment. Similar changes were occurring in all 12 specimens. The forbidden experiment had begun, and within 48 hours, the Arcanians would learn exactly why humans were off limits, not for the humans' protection, but for everyone else's. The reason why. In the primary research lab of the Destiny's Reach, Vexilor frowned at the data scrolling across his workstation. Something was happening with the human specimens, something unexpected. Their neural activity had increased by 300% since their capture, despite the stasis fields that should have suppressed all but the most basic bodily functions. Mira, look at these readings, he called to his assistant. Subject 7's brain is showing activity patterns I've never seen before. Mira approached cautiously, studying the scan of Elena Vasquez's brain. It's almost as if her neural pathways are reorganizing. Not just reorganizing, evolving. Vexilor's scales flushed with excitement. And look at the genetic markers we flagged earlier. They're becoming more pronounced, more active. Could it be a response to the stasis field? Mira suggested. Perhaps, or maybe. Vexilor hesitated. Maybe the Guardian was right. Maybe there is something unique about human cognition. A chime from his workstation interrupted his thoughts. The commander wants a progress report, Mira informed him. Tell her I've made a breakthrough. Vexilor's eyes never left the data. And prepare Subject 7 for direct neural interfacing. I want to see what's happening inside her mind. On the command deck, First Commander Thela faced a growing crisis. The Guardian vessel hadn't moved or communicated since delivering its warning, but its presence was having unexpected effects on their ship. Systems flickered unpredictably. Communications experienced strange delays, and crew members reported unsettling dreams whenever they tried to rest. Can we break orbit without alerting them? She asked her tactical officer. Unknown, Commander. Their sensor capabilities exceed our understanding. I cannot guarantee they wouldn't intercept us. Thela's scales darkened with frustration. What about our weapons systems? Operational, but the tactical officer hesitated. Based on their energy readings, our most powerful weapons would be like throwing pebbles at a mountain. 36 hours remain in Vexilor's research window, Thela noted. Maintain current position and alert me to any change in the Guardian vessel's status. As she turned to leave, the ship's artificial gravity suddenly fluctuated. Crew members stumbled as the deck seemed to tilt beneath them. Then, just as quickly, everything stabilized. What was that? Fella demanded. Unknown, Commander, the systems officer replied. But it originated from the research lab. Elena Vasquez floated in darkness. Not the darkness of unconsciousness or sleep, but something different. A vast, limitless space filled with potential. In this strange state between awareness and oblivion, she sensed others nearby. The 11 other captured humans, each experiencing their own version of this liminal space. Something was happening to them. The alien technology designed to keep them passive had instead triggered something dormant, something buried deep in human DNA. In isolation, none of them could have accessed it. But together, their minds reached across the void, forming connections that bypassed physical constraints. We're not alone, Elena thought, and somehow knew the others could hear her. Where are we? Came the response from Pavel, the Russian ranger. Where are we? Came the response from Pavel, the Russian ranger. Captured. Aliens. This from Kimiko, the marine biologist. Not for long, added Jamal, the Aboriginal guide. Something's changing. Their thoughts merged and separated, a fluid exchange of information and emotion that should have been impossible. Yet here, in this space between spaces, the ordinary rules didn't apply. Elena felt something else too, a presence beyond their small group. Ancient, powerful, watching. Not the aliens who had taken them, but something else. Something that had been waiting. Time to wake up, it seemed to say. In the lab, alarms blared as Subject 7's stasis field fluctuated wildly. Vexlor rushed to the control panel, his assistant close behind. What's happening? Mira shouted over the noise. I don't know. Vexlor's fingers moved frantically across the controls. Her neural activity is off the charts. It's affecting the containment field. The other subjects. Mira pointed to the remaining stasis chambers where similar disturbances were spreading like a contagion. Before Vexlor could respond, the stasis field around Elena collapsed completely. Her eyes snapped open, eyes that now glowed with an inner light that was decidedly not human. Vexlor stumbled back in shock. Impossible, he whispered. Elena sat up slowly, her movements fluid despite weeks in stasis. When she spoke, her voice was calm, almost conversational. You should have listened to the warning. Around the lab, the other stasis fields began failing one by one. The human specimens were awakening, all showing the same eerie glow in their eyes, all moving with the same unnatural grace. Vexlor hit the emergency containment button, sealing the lab and triggering the defense systems. Energy barriers sprang up around each stasis chamber, designed to contain even the most dangerous specimens. Elena looked at the barrier surrounding her with mild curiosity. She reached out a hand and passed through it as if it weren't there. What are you? Vexlor demanded, backing toward the exit. Still human, Elena replied. Just more than we were before. She tilted her head as if listening to something only she could hear. The others are coming. Others. The Guardians. They tried to warn you. She looked almost sympathetic. You really should have listened. On the command deck, chaos erupted as systems failed across the ship. The view screen activated without command, showing the Guardian vessel suddenly in motion, approaching the Destiny's reach with impossible speed. Shields at maximum, Thela ordered. Prepare for. She never finished the command. The deck beneath them shimmered, and suddenly they weren't alone. 3 Guardian entities stood among them, their fractal forms causing visual distortion in the space they occupied. The time for warnings has passed, the central figure stated, its voice bypassing their ears and speaking directly to their minds. Your interference has accelerated the process. The humans have awakened. What does that mean? Thela demanded. What have you done to my ship? We have done nothing. the Guardian replied. The humans are responsible for your system's failure. Their dormant abilities have activated prematurely due to your experimentation. That's not possible, Thela insisted. They're primitive beings. They don't possess such technology. It is not technology. The Guardian's form shifted, becoming more defined, more comprehensible to Arcanian perception. What you are witnessing is the first stage of human potential unfoldment. The abilities your scientists sought to understand have begun to manifest. The ship's internal communication system activated. Vexlor's panicked voice echoed through the command deck. Commander, the specimens have escaped containment. There, his transmission cut off abruptly. The Guardian's form rippled, perhaps the equivalent of a sad shake of the head. Now you will understand why humans are protected. Not for their sake, but for yours. In the corridors of the Destiny's Reach, Alina led the other humans forward. They moved as one, their minds linked in ways that defied conventional understanding. The ship's defenses activated automatically. Security drones, energy barriers, even armed crew members attempting to stop them. None succeeded. Pavel Sokolov, the Siberian Ranger, somehow knew exactly how to disable the security systems despite never having seen alien technology before. Kimiko Tanaka, the marine biologist, could sense the energy flows of the ship and redirect them with a thought. Jamal Cooper, drawing on knowledge passed down through 50,000 years of Aboriginal Dreamtime, could see pathways through the ship that shouldn't have existed. And Alina, whose brain had always made intuitive leaps that astonished her colleagues, now understood the alien technology, as if she built it herself. They weren't using technology or weapons. Something more fundamental had changed, as if the limitations of human perception had been temporarily lifted, allowing them to interact with reality on a more fundamental level. When they reached the command deck, the doors parted before them without command. Inside, they found the Arcanian command crew and the Guardian entities in an apparent standoff. There they are, First Commander Thela said, her scales pale with stress. What have you done to them? Nothing they couldn't have done themselves, given time, the Guardian replied. Human potential was always there, dormant in their genetic code. Your interference merely accelerated the process. Alina stepped forward, her eyes still glowing with that inner light. The other humans arranged themselves behind her, moving with synchronized precision. You took us against our will, she said to Thela. You treated us as specimens, as things to be studied and exploited. We meant no harm, Thela insisted. Scientific inquiry is the foundation of progress. Inquiry without consent is violation, Alina replied. But that's not why the Guardians protect us. Then why? Vexlor had appeared in the doorway, disheveled but apparently unharmed. What makes your species so special that these beings would intervene on your behalf? The lead Guardian gestured, and the view screen activated, showing Earth from orbit. We have protected many species throughout the galaxy, scientist. Those with potential to evolve beyond their physical limitations. Those who might one day join us as caretakers of the cosmic balance. And humans have this potential, Vexlor asked skeptically. They have already begun to demonstrate it. The Guardian replied. What you are witnessing is merely the first manifestation of abilities that will take millennia to fully develop, if they develop naturally. And if not? Thela asked. If forced to evolve prematurely, as your actions have done to these 12, the results are unpredictable, dangerous, not just to them, but to anyone who encounters them. As if to demonstrate, Alina raised her hand. Every piece of technology on the command deck immediately shut down, then restarted with new configurations appearing on the screens, configurations no Arcanian had programmed. We can see the code that underlies your technology, she explained calmly. Not just the programming, but the fundamental properties that allow it to function. We can rewrite it. The implications hit Vexlor like a physical blow. You could disable our ship, our weapons, even our life support. Yes, Alina confirmed, but we won't. Unlike you, We understand the value of consent and free choice. The Guardian's form shifted again, addressing the humans directly. Your acceleration cannot be reversed. The changes have begun. You must come with us now. Why? Elena asked. To learn control, to understand what you have become, and to prepare for what you will become next. The Guardian turned to the Arcanians. This is the truth you fail to comprehend. Humans are not protected because they are weak. They are protected because, given time, they will become more powerful than you can imagine. Fella's scientific mind finally grasped the situation. You're saying humans are what? Pre-Guardian. A species in transition to becoming like you. Perhaps, the Guardian acknowledged, or perhaps something else entirely. Their evolutionary path is unique, which is why interference is forbidden. Each premature awakening alters the course of their potential. Elena looked at her fellow humans, sensing their thoughts, their fears, their wonder at what they had become. Then she turned to the Arcanians. Remember this, she said softly. Remember what happens when you treat other beings as things to be used rather than lives to be respected. And tell your people, tell anyone who might think to study us or conquer us or exploit us, humans are off limits. The Guardian entities surrounded the 12 humans. Reality seemed to bend around them, light twisting in impossible ways. And then they were gone, both the Guardians and the humans they protected. In the silence that followed, Vexilor approached the view screen, staring at the distant blue planet with new understanding. Now I see, he whispered. Now I understand. Thella joined him, her scientific curiosity overcoming her shock. What do you understand, Chief Scientist? Why they protect humans? Why they're off limits? Vexilor's scales had paled to almost white. We thought we were studying them. But all along, they were the experiment. Whose experiment? Vexilor gestured to the stars beyond Earth. The universes, evolutions, perhaps even the Guardians themselves. He shook his head in wonder. Those humans weren't just adapting to captivity. They were transforming into something new. Something with the potential to reshape reality itself. Then the Guardians aren't just protecting humans from us, Vexilor concluded. They're protecting everyone else from what humans might become. 3 days later, the Destiny's Reach prepared to depart the Sol system. All data regarding human specimens had been purged as demanded. The Guardian vessel remained in position, a silent sentinel ensuring their compliance. As the hyperspace engines engage, Thella made a final log entry, one that would be distributed to every vessel in the Arcanian fleet, and eventually to every spacefaring species they encountered. Sol system and its third planet, Earth, are hereby classified Interdiction Zone Alpha. No contact, no observation, no interference permitted under any circumstances. The indigenous species, humans, are to be considered off limits by direct order of the Arcanian High Command. Not because they are primitive, not because they are weak, but because of what they will become. We don't harm them, for our own protection. As the stars stretched into lines around them, marking their entry into hyperspace, Vexilor gazed one last time at the fading image of Earth on his personal view screen. Somewhere on that small blue planet, millions of humans went about their lives, unaware of their potential, unaware of their cosmic significance, unaware that someday they might reshape the very stars that now washed over them. Safe journey, he whispered, though none could hear, until the day we meet as equals.